Good evening and welcome to the Kentwood branch at the Kent District Library for our second presentation in a series called Living Better in West Michigan, a Global Health Perspective. This is presented by the World Affairs Council of Western Michigan in collaboration with Kent District Library. I'm Erica Kubik, Director of Programming for the Council, and on behalf of my colleagues Rachel Brooks, Abigail Stead, and Michael Indennett, as well as the Board of Directors of the World Affairs Council, I welcome all of you. Our mission is to empower the people and organizations of West Michigan to engage thoughtfully with the world. To change the world, we believe one must first know the world, and you can learn more about what we do at worldmichigan.org. Tonight, we say a special thank you to our friends at Kent District Library, who annually partner with us to provide this free informational resource to the West Michigan community. I also want to thank all of you for being in the audience tonight. As we engage in the topic of global health these next few weeks, it's important to remember that feeling connected in our community and feeling like we belong contribute to our sense of well-being. I know that KDL prides itself on being a library for everyone, and I encourage you tonight to connect with others in the community by introducing yourself to your neighbors in this audience and staying to chat after the program is over cookies and cider. Now, I welcome Christina Tazalar, board member for KDL, to share what's happening at the library.
Good evening. Kent District Library exists to further all people, and we do this in a lot of ways. Programs like tonight, in cooperation with the World Affairs Council of West Michigan. Also, of course, you can check out books. You can also check out heart rate monitors from our Beyond Books collection, or video games. Perhaps not the most checked out amongst this demographic, but maybe you know other people who are interested in video games. And of course, there are a lot of programs. This program is continuing next week, Tuesday, same time, same place. That'll be looking at how medical schools shape community and global health. Other upcoming programs include New Book Cowan, which is looking at Anishinaabe stories from Michigan. There is a fall foraging series that will be happening at 6 different branches in the next month. There's also, if there are any authors in this crowd, there's 2 author workshops happening this weekend at the library in Ada. If you're interested in any of these things, you can stop into your local library and ask, or you can look it up on the KDL website. Now I am pleased to introduce Dr. Peter Jones, who is the President and Chief Scientific Officer at Andel Institute. Dr. Peter A. Jones was born in Cape Town, raised and attended college in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, and received his PhD from the University of London. He joined the University of Southern California in 1977 and served as director of the USC Norris Comprehensive Cancer Center between 1993 and 2011. He is currently the Chief Scientific Officer at the Andel Institute here in Grand Rapids. His laboratory discovered the effects of 5-acetylcysteine on cytosine methylation, and he first established a link between DNA methylation, gene expression, and differentiation. Dr. Jones pioneered the field of epigenetics, particularly its role in cancer, and helped develop novel therapies for cancer. Dr. Jones is a past president of the American Association for Cancer Research, a fellow of the AACR Academy, a fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, a member of the National Academy of Sciences, a member of the National Academy of Medicine, and a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He has published more than 300 scientific papers and received several honors, including the Outstanding Investigator Grant from the National Cancer Institute. He and his colleague, Dr. Stephen Balin, shared the Kirk A. Linden Award for Basic Cancer Research from the AACR in 2009 and the Medal of Honor from the American Cancer Society in 2011. After his presentation this evening, there will be ample time for questions. Please exhibit civility to our guest and hospitality to others by asking respectful and succinct questions. The presentation tonight is titled Behind the Breakthroughs, Changing Communities. Let's welcome our esteemed guest, Dr. Jones, to the stage.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Okay, I need to. Good evening. Thank you very much for inviting me here to give this talk. I'm really honored. And what I want to do is I want to tell you about a jewel in Grand Rapids, and that's the Andel Institute, which started from nothing 25 years ago and is now ranked amongst the very top research institutes in the country. That's the job. First, I want to talk a little bit about me. I was told to do that. And this is World Affairs, so let's talk about Cape Town, South Africa, which is where I was born. The fairest cape I saw in the circumference of the earth, Sir Francis Drake. And after that, my family moved up, first of all, to the Victoria Falls, there, that little dot there, which is also a world-famous place. Victoria Falls, scenes so lovely must have been gazed upon by angels in their flight. And that's from David Livingstone and Stanley, of course. Dr. Livingstone, I presume, that's him. So I've had the luck of being born in one of the most famous places in the world and growing up as a young kid in also one of the most famous spots on the world. This is a beautiful, beautiful waterfall. I then went to what was called Rhodesia, it's now called Zimbabwe, and I did my PhD there in the University of Rhodesia as an external student from the University of London. It's in the middle of nowhere, okay? And just before I started my undergraduate activities, Ian Smith, who was the Prime Minister 60 years ago, almost exactly, declared independence against Great Britain. And that immediately put us into a very awkward situation. We were the polecats of the world. We had United Nations sanctions, so I know lots about sanctions, and I know lots about everything that's to do with being a rebel colony of the British Commonwealth. It was an interesting place, and I had actually a very interesting supervisor or person who educated me in the lab. He was a terror leader. He actually, in the lab, was running AK-47s into the country to oppose the Ian Smith government. He was one of the very few black African PhDs, and I was very lucky to train under him. But he was arrested in front of me in the lab. So I like to say my training under these conditions gives me a wonderful ability to survive in academia, wherever it is. So you might say that I got the heck out of there. Veronica and I, my wife who's here this evening, got a fellowship to come to Los Angeles. And so we did get out of there. And we went to the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. Now for us, this is quite something. This is on Sunset Boulevard, right in the middle of Hollywood. We're very disappointed at the research facility. The hospital is over here. The lab in which I work was on the top here. And so it was a little bit disappointing because they had one of those old elevators that, with like a concertina door. And in there I made a discovery which changed my entire life. And in one day, my whole life changed. And I want to tell you about that. It was to do with this drug, which is called 5-azacitidine. You didn't pronounce it too badly. Good try. It came out of Prague in Czechoslovakia And it was developed as an agent to treat children with cancer. And I was there at a children's hospital, and I got hold of some of this stuff and started to look at it. How did it work and what did it do? So it was a pretty, exciting time, but again, it's quite a long time ago. Now, what we did was to grow cells in culture, and unfortunately, when you do that over a 6-week period, very often you get molds in the culture. This is not a cell culture, but you can see these molds. They look like they're from bread. You know, when your bread goes off, you get these little colonies of fungus growing on your. And one day, when we were growing cells, not molds, the technician saw this in the bottom of the culture dish. This is a microscope picture, a micrograph of a big pile of cells in the bottom of the dish. And she said, "Peter, this is contaminated with the mold. You're not supposed to have molds in it." And I said to her, "Well, just put it on the side there and let me have a look at it." And I looked at it with a higher power microscope. And what did I see? I saw that. Now, this are what the cells are supposed to look like. And this is a cell growing on top of it. And you can see there are lots of nuclei. The part that makes the cell work here, the nuclei in a single cell. And lo and behold, it started to twitch while I watched it. It's not supposed to do that. This was a muscle cell. It wasn't a mold, it was a muscle cell. So I felt like Alexander Fleming. Alexander Fleming used the mold to find penicillin, and I'd found this drug to change one cell type into another. So from that time on, I've worked on the same thing. I have what they call in business, I have stuck to the knitting. I've always done the same field of research, which is epigenetics. I want to briefly tell you what is epigenetics, because you probably don't know that Grand Rapids is the center, or one of the centers, of epigenetic research in the entire world. And we've recruited people here over the 12 to 13 people who work on this area. And this Time magazine article was talking about the difference between genes and epigenetics. So I want to tell you briefly, why would you worry about epigenetics? Why would you be interested in epigenetics? And so there's a picture to try and explain to you what it is. So don't worry, I'll make it easier as we go through it. You've probably all seen pictures of chromosomes. In each of your cells, you have 46 of them, 23 from your mother, 23 from your father. And into it is wound a couple of meters or a couple of yards of DNA into a single cell. And this DNA, I think everybody knows what DNA looks like, is wrapped up with little balls that it gets wrapped up in, called nucleosomes, in such a way that this long stretch of DNA can actually fit inside a very small place. And this packaging allows you to use different genes for different things. So it's rather like going into a house. Some of the doors are open, some of the doors are closed, and some of the doors are closed and locked. And the way this works in biology, which is not going to, don't worry, I'm not going to get too deep in this, is a bunch of marks get put on the DNA, on the proteins, rather like little flags that say, use me, or don't use me, or I'm locked. That's what epigenetics is, because it allows the cell to actually use different parts of your genes in different places. So you can think of this as being if you think about it, a violin and the music here. The music, if you think about it, is your genes, right? And the violin is what plays the genes. It allows the genes to be used. It allows the cell to use genes at different times, right? So you can't, if you have a broken gene, you get a disease. If you get a broken violin, you can also get a disease, okay? So we're talking about the epigenome here. We're talking about the violin. Now, I gave this talk, I don't know anything about music, and I gave the same slide in Caltech. And a student in the audience got really angry with me and said, "That's piano music. This is not And I was thinking about that more recently, and actually, the reason it's piano is you've got two hands, right, when you play the piano. And you have two copies of every gene in your body because you've got one from mom, one from dad. There are exceptions, but generally that's what it is. So maybe it's not too bad. And the genes are a little bit different from each other. You know, it's a mixture of genes. I wish I'd have thought about that. She was really, really angry because I was so stupid. Okay. So the question is, I don't know whether you've ever thought about this. How the heck does you start like this? Everybody in this room started like this. How did you get these billions of cells all that know what the heck they're going to do? Your hair doesn't look the same as your eyes. How does that happen? That's what we're interested in. So think about genomes as being things that the DNA, which can actually define a human and a dog and a lion, all have different genes, all right? All look different. But a heart, an eye, and a liver also look very different, even though they have the same genes in them, right? This is a human heart, human eye, human liver. So that is what is so interesting about epigenetics, and that's why you should all go home and get a book on it. It's so interesting. Think of this one. These are identical twins. Those of you in the audience know these twins? I don't, because we didn't grow up here. Are they the Olsen twins, I think? And they're identical. But not all identical twins are identical. These are just some children, two children, who have exactly the same genetic genes because they are identical twins. They have identical genes, but they don't look identical. So something has gone wrong during development, which has caused this. This is a picture of a brain of a child which has an ependymoma. It's a brain tumor, which is caused by changes in the epigenome, which have caused these tumors to develop abnormally. This is not a good tumor to get. And children die of these. It's very, very hard to treat them. And then, so the drug that I have helped work about, I showed you this earlier on, took 41 years to actually get into a vial where it could be injected into people. And the reason why this is an important drug is it gets into the genes, and because it's got a chemical difference to it, it can actually change which genes are getting used or not. It's a beautiful epigenetic drug. And it's used to treat myelodysplastic syndrome these days, which is a disease of the blood, a pre-leukemia condition. So drugging the epigenome is smooth. This is one of the highlights of my life. I went to the car dealer, and this is my license plate. I hope you can recognize it. 5 A's C. And Mrs. Kroll came up to me and she said, "Dr. Jones, you're my hero. You saved my life." Of course, I didn't really save a life. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physician. But this, the license plate, she recognized it because she was on the drug. She was given up for bone marrow transplant, but they put her on this drug and it saved her life. So I was at the USC Norris Comprehensive Cancer Center. I was the director for 17 years. This is 3 buildings, one of which has got a hospital, 60-bed hospital, and I was in charge of the whole thing. And it's pretty tough. I don't have a medical degree. And if you try and tell surgeons what to do, they actually don't like it very much. And particularly if you don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, I thought it was a good time to give up science. Give up the leadership. And then I got this amazing phone call from this. This is a jewel. This is in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it's the Andel Institute. And you can see this picture. And this jewel was in a place which I'd never even heard of. And when I got the call that maybe I should be interested, I said, "You've got to be kidding." And only due to Jana Hall, who happens in the audience, and Linda Zozeki and others, I actually decided to come here. And Veronica and I came here, and we love Grand Rapids. So we've been here for 12 years. So what did we do then? Well, first of all, We actually have now got a graduate school as well. We had that already when I came, but we now have this building, which 100 years old, which has been redone to be actually to train the next generation of graduate students, next people like me, people that can do science and push the envelope of research. So we're committed to improving the health and enhancing the lives of current and future generations. We want to do cutting-edge, basic research, which is not only exciting in its own right, but we also want to be able to take that research and put it into people. We want to help people, and that's what the Institute is. And we have about 500 people there, which is amazing. We have 39 labs, 9 core facilities. We had the world's, one of the most advanced microscope you can buy that can let you see almost the individual atoms. The second place in Michigan to get it, after the University of Michigan. And we also have a graduate school, and we also have summer camps and an education institute for young kids. So we try to take young children, encourage them to do science, to work on projects, which eventually could lead to PhD degrees and maybe help us in this quest. So this is amazing. This is the opening. This is the year 2000, right? Okay, so it's only 25 years, for heaven's sake. And there's President Ford and David Van Andel and Jay Van Andel there at the beginning of this institute. Now, when they wanted to start this institute, they got 4 Nobel laureates here, 5 actually, come to Grand Rapids and tell us what to do with this money that Jay Van Andel put up. And these sages said, put it in an institute near a university. Don't waste time putting it in Grand Rapids where there's not much going on, quite frankly. Scientifically, there wasn't very much. And Jay Van Andel said, no, I wanted to have it here. And that was a great decision, as I'm going to show you. So the first part of the plan was to recruit name brand scientists. These are 3 of them, people who, Rusty Jones, who we got from Montreal, Peter Laird we got from Los Angeles, and Peter Jones is the guy that's giving the talk. Now, you'll notice that so these people are the highest ranked people rated in their field because their papers are cited by other people. I use the 2023 slide because I'm embarrassed to say that it's, I'm no longer on that list. But I thought you wouldn't mind me just showing off for a little while. But I'm no longer on the list. Okay? But anyway, the strategy was to get people who are known scientifically here to Grand Rapids. Now, we can see how we are by rankings which are done by Nature, which is the world's oldest scientific journal. And this is truly amazing. So we are now ranked number 5, Andel Institute, and the 4 people ahead of us are the Scripps Institute, Cold Spring Harbor Labs, the Salk Institute, and the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. Just think about it. Even though you're not scientists, you've probably heard of these places. You've certainly heard of the Salk Institute. And there is number 5, the Van Andel Institute. We have gone from 0 to number 5 in 25 years. It's incredible. Absolutely amazing. And this is in terms of our scientific prowess. Nothing here to being number 5 on the list with all those 4 big hitters. And our plan is to keep going up the ranks. We support our work not only from a very big endowment from the Van Andel endowment, but also in terms of National Institutes of Health Support. I was a bit irritated by this. You can see the behemoth here, the University of Michigan, MSU, Wayne State, and we were above Henry Ford, which is a pretty big hospital organization. We're now number 5 in Michigan. So we can rank how we're doing by looking at the kind of money that we can get competitively from the National Institutes of Health. So that's not bad either, but I would like it to be better than that. But, you know, so far, so good. I want to briefly tell you what we do. First of all, we want to develop first-rate science using name brand people. People are well known. And we focus on metabolism, how what you eat changes your epigenome, for example, and makes your immune cells function, is what we focus on. Neurodegeneration, because Jay Van Andel had Parkinson's disease, we have a strong program in neurodegeneration focused on Parkinson's disease. We have epigenetics. As I said, there was nothing here until I came here. Now we have about 12 or 13 people. You will not find anyone in the world that doesn't know about, in the field of epigenetics, that doesn't know about us. I love boasting like this, by the way. Love it. I found that in Michigan, people don't know how to boast. It's called, what's it? Midwest nice or something? Doesn't work in LA. It won't get you very far. Structural biology, we have 6 people here that are at the very forefront of understanding how molecules work, using our fancy microscope. And in cell biology, we do a lot of work related to cancer. Now, we are supported by very good core facilities, the very best you can get in the world. We've got the best equipment, best people running it, and this supports all of our work. We have a graduate school, and we have operations, which actually supports all of this activity. Now, what we've done extra, and I think this is one of the advantages of being in a small place. Remember, I grew up in Rhodesia. It's pretty small. At the time we were there were 4 or 5 million people in the whole country. You have to think outside of yourself. Grand Rapids is very small. So what we've done is actually plan to work with people all over the world because we're small. You know, we live near Amway. I go past Amway every day, and I'm always impressed by the flags that are outside the Amway building. Think outside, think bigger. And so what can we do that other people cannot? And so we've come up with a few things I'm going to describe to you where we can take what we've learned in the lab, what we know about, which is the lab, and actually ask, can we help people with diseases? We also collaborate locally, before I get on to the international stuff. Just to mention to you, these are some of the things that we are collaborating with. So I can't read this and go through it in any great detail, but generally speaking, we're very well integrated into the local medical community in terms of doing projects, getting human samples. One of our guys, for example, you know when you have what are those knee replacement surgeries, they normally throw away the knee joint or something? Well, actually, you can use that to do research. So that's the kind of thing we do. We set that up. We also work with Grand Valley State University. We're setting up a program maybe to think about using AI, which is going to transform biology and medicine. Can we develop a joint program with them? We now have Cliff Cho, who is the Chief Medical Officer at Healthcare West, the hospital just down the road here. And he's a surgeon. And he's interested in zapping tumors with ultrasound and just sort of busting them to pieces. And he is a joint on our faculty and also the University of Michigan. So this allows us to develop, with local hospitals, new research programs. And for example, using this kind of approach to treat tumors is very, very unique. Very exciting. Now, this is something I wanted to tell you now to go looking outside of Grand Rapids. I want to talk about the International Linked Clinical Trials program. So here's the problem. If you have Parkinson's disease, it's a very difficult disease to come up with new treatments for because, mercifully, you will live for a long time with the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. You can't start giving people toxic drugs or something to try and cure it. You've got to be very careful. And so what this group does, and we fund this group, and we collaborate with them around the entire world, is think of drugs which might be on the shelf right now, which there might be a scientific basis that might have an impact on Parkinson's. And to do it is a huge deal, right? You've got to get people in Australia, people in England, people here, and do these big trials. And so that is what we're very, and we participate with them, and we have a leading role in deciding which drugs are going to be tried. It's difficult to treat Parkinson's. And so this is a very good way to do it. And so if you look at this, there are lots of things that have been tried, and so far we still haven't hit the magic bullet. But it's probably the only way we can do it. Cancer is different because cancer is a disease where after diagnosis you may have a limited time. And so you can try out other kinds of drugs, which are new, which have just been newly made, or the drug that I found could make the cells twitch. So we've partnered over the last 12 years with Stand Up to Cancer. This is a group started in Hollywood, actually almost exclusively women in the entertainment industry. And we have an epigenetics dream team, and our institute funds our team. So we're trying to use what we know about epigenetics to actually treat cancer. And this is our team. These people come here to Grand Rapids. We assemble here once a year, and we discuss new approaches. These are the collaborations that we have with different places. I want you to notice that we are working with all of the biggies, Johns Hopkins, Indiana, St. Jude, the world's best children's hospital, I would say, research hospital, Andel Institute, and the Rikshospital, which is in Denmark. All we want to do is to take what we know and try and come up with new recipes to treat people with cancer. And that's what we do. And we've had a few successes, but I'm not going to go into that. Now I want to finish my talk to talk about the National Institutes of Health. I don't know how many of you in this audience know how serious the situation is with the National Institutes of Health at the moment. So I wanted to just briefly say that what makes American science the best, medical science, is one thing, the National Institutes of Health. And it was formed a long time ago, but in 1937, Dr. Vannevar Bush worked with President Roosevelt to establish research groups. Here was the idea. The government was going to partner with universities to fund research. And there's one important thing. The research would be peer-reviewed. That means that that scientists would evaluate other scientists and say, this is a good idea, this is a load of hogwash, come back next year, this is not properly developed, all of that kind of stuff. We rely on that extensively in our institute. It is the best competitive system that's ever been devised to do science. Not only that, the reason why there are so many foreigners in this country doing science, like me, is because anyone can get in on the ground floor. In Europe, they have a hierarchical system where there's a big guy at the top, and he decides who's going to get the money. At the US, everybody can apply, and the funding that you get allows you to do a research project which has been vetted by scientists or doctors, not by other people who don't know whether it's valid or whether it's going to work or not. So it's been spectacularly successful. I would not be here today if it wasn't for the NIH. So this is what, the amount of funding. Yes, it's a lot of funding. It's 37 million, I can't read properly. And researchers in all 50 states get support. And 2,500 universities, research institute, we're a research institute, and other organizations get funding from the NIH. It is not a free handout. Probably in cancer, you have one chance in 10 that your grant's going to get funded. Okay, so it's very important that we have this system. It's a crown jewel. What has it done? What has it presented? Did you see the Nobel Prizes this year? What do you notice? Well, this is the Nobel Prize in Medicine. There are 2 Americans up here. This person is in Japan. These were working in a company, but they got their training supported by the NIH. Physics, well, they don't get money from the NIH, they get it from the National Research Sciences. Again, 3 people in physics, all from the University of California. Okay? These prizes are not given to anyone, right? There's very few. And what about chemistry? Okay? Again, these are people who all work in the US. This is University of California. I think the University of California won 5 prizes this year. So just think about it. The university doesn't give you the money to do the research. You get the money yourself against all competitors in the US and do the research, okay? So I just wanted to point that out because I'm worried that people don't understand that this system is under, is not as solid now as it should be. So I wanted to just end my talk by summarizing first while you're looking at these license plates. This is going to be a test, okay? So I wanted to say that, coming here to Grand Rapids was one of the best choices Veronica and I have ever made. We love being here. We've been able to participate with the help of a group of people who are really committed to taking that jewel that's downtown Grand Rapids and really making it a world-class institute, which it now is. It definitely is. There's no question. I'm not just saying it. We have developed a world-famous program in epigenetics, structural biology. I haven't talked about it, but looking like that drawing, the picture of the chromosome I gave you, we can see right inside the chromosome with the microscopes we've got. Who would think that you would have that in the middle of a small place like Grand Rapids? It's beyond belief, right? And then I wanted to, just to tell you again that please pay attention to what's happening. The National Institutes of Health, there are people who feel that the amount of funding should be cut. I would argue with you and everybody else that the reason why the United States has invented most of the medicines we use has been at the forefront of science that wins all the Nobel Prizes is because in 1937 this system was set up where everybody competed against everybody else and it let anybody in on the ground floor. And that's not, there's a situation at the moment where maybe that is not going to be perpetuated. And I don't understand why. All of the medicines we take, not all of them, but the majority came from NIH studies. But I don't want this to leave on a negative tone. I want to say that the Institute has really flourished. I think it's a story of, be hard to believe. Those Nobel laureates that came here years ago and said, don't put it in Grand Rapids, we proved them wrong. We proved them wrong together. Not just the scientists, it's everybody that's helped make this institute what it is. It's really something. So I started a craze in the institute with my license plate. Actually, I started with the California one. You see, you can have the same license plate in different states, a vanity plate, right? So there's my first one, and I have another one. And then all of these weirdo plates that you see here are from faculty members at the Institute. I told them if you want to keep your job, you're getting a vanity plate that tells people what you do. Not quite, but this is a cryo-electron microscope. Histone is the protein around which the DNA is wrapped. This is the name of the fancy microscope we have. That means epigenetics. You now know what that is. And so on. So it's been really a remarkable story as to what you can do if you have the right people, the right facilities in the right place at the right time And I want you all to be really proud of this institute. We like to think that we are an institute which is, charged with innovation, coming up with brand new ideas. Can we treat cancer by changing diet? Can we, see right inside how these molecules work to each other? And, I think it's very clear. Next time you go to the airport, please you'll see this picture on the wall. I bet you all walked past it and you never looked at it. So remember next time, don't look at the one that's on the other side. That's to do with the hospital. Focus on the good stuff. Okay. So I think I've talked about the right amount of time, and I'm very happy to answer questions if anybody has any. If you don't ask me questions, I'm going to ask you. So.
It looks like we already have a few questions in the audience, but first let's give Dr. Jones a round of applause. Really enjoyed that talk. And I have a roving mic, so you can certainly raise your hand. You can also come up to this mic here if you have a question. So we'll get it started with this gentleman here.
Thank you, Dr. Jones, for everything you've done. My question is on, does the CCR5 protein mean anything to you?
No, it's, I'm sorry, but that's an acronym. So I don't know what it is.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you about, there's a lot of research on inhibiting the CCR5 protein in tumorous cancers, and I was wondering if you had looked into that.
No, I can't answer. It depends on which cancer. And I don't know about the drugs. The way things generally work is the cancer would be, obviously discovered by doctors. And then basic researchers would try and take apart the mechanisms which are gone wrong. Many cancers, or most cancers, have got mutations in them. You smoke cigarettes, you damage your DNA, you get mutations, you get cancer. And at that stage, when you found the culprit, then you can do a screen for a drug. And sometimes, then it would be handed off to a drug company. So because it's a hugely expensive deal to take something from a lab dish and put it into a person. I don't know whether I'm digressing now, I'm sorry about that. But did you know that the drug cisplatinum, have you heard of that drug, platinum? That was invented at MSU. That was a basic scientist who stuck a platinum wire into a dish and noticed that it killed all the bacteria in the dish. And they made a lot of money out of that. So sometimes it can be just by chance. I mean, when I started, I didn't invent that drug, but I figured out how it worked, and now it can be used in these leukemias. So I don't know about CCR5, I'm sorry. I probably should know, but I don't.
I urge you to look into that because it's very promising from everything I've read.
Yeah.
But there are monoclonal antibodies that attach to the CCR5 protein and shut it down,
I see.
Which allows the immune system to attack the cancer. So,
yeah. Well, I think the field of immunology, which is you're talking about, has been the biggest advance over the last 20 years in the field of cancer treatment, using the body's own immune system to kill the cancer. That has been a breakthrough, and those drugs are used in multiple different cancer types. So again, where did the immunology come from? NIH, National Cancer Institute. Why would you stop funding? Do you think we've cured everything? Yeah, anyone here in this room? I don't think so. So I think the value of basic science cannot be underestimated. It has to start with putting a wire into a dish, finding a cell that starts jumping around when it shouldn't, and in immunology finding out, one of the Nobel Prizes this year was given to 3 people who worked on immunology. So these monoclonal antibodies are just you know, a huge breakthrough. Huge breakthrough.
In the United States, in the past, research has been affected by family members of having breast cancer and then HIV, and then now with the Andel Institute looking into Parkinson's. What is your opinion of how forces of people that are affected by these diseases having an influence on how the research is done at your level?
Yeah, it's a great idea, and it very often works. But unfortunately, many of the discoveries are made in a different way that is not directly related to the disease. In basic science, you're just interested in life. And you might find something which has tremendous implications for a particular disease. So I've worked on both sides. I feel like patient advocacy is really important. And yes, sometimes research has to be targeted to a particular cancer. I worked for years as a reviewer. The Department of Defense had a program in breast cancer. And a group of women said, to hell with it, you're not funding enough breast cancer research. We want more. And they went to Congress, and Congress allocated money through the Department of Defense to look at breast cancer. And I think the treatment for breast cancer has made major moves forward. It's an interesting balance and a very good question, but I cannot emphasize enough how important basic science is. You cannot predict. Most of it's not going to show you anything that's going to help people directly. But it's the 1 in 100 that really makes a difference. And so I think what we've got is a pretty good system where we have, you know, in the National Cancer Institute, both sides of the coin. There are people who are very interested in prostate cancer, breast cancer, and brain tumors, etc. And as you said, HIV as well. Yeah. I hope I answered your question.
And monoclonal antibodies, I mean, that as a targeted therapy is remarkable.
Yes.
Basic research.
Yes. And I happen to know the man who had the patent for monoclonal antibodies, human animals. He's now unfortunately passed away. And his NIH grant was not funded because everybody said it's not going to work. So there you are. That's why if you have to fight for what you believe in, generally speaking, you'll get there, so long as you keep going. So his idea about monoclonal antibodies funded this mega multi-billion-dollar industry now, where just about every drug company has a special monoclonal to work in immunotherapy. Very good point.
Thank you for coming here and sharing so much. I've lived here for a while and saw the Andel Institute being built and always wondered what goes behind those doors. So thanks for peeling back the curtains for me. You talked a little bit about the National Institutes for Health and peer reviews and funding and how those things are an area of concern. I take that as a call to action for me, you know, with our elected officials to make sure that those are preserved and if grown if possible. So thanks for giving me a call for action. But my question is, you mentioned artificial intelligence and the role in research, and there's a lot of goofy stuff that comes out of artificial intelligence. Could you talk a little bit more about how you're using it in your research?
Yeah. So the people that use it the most are the structural biologists. Those are the guys with the fancy microscope with the license plate that said Krios 5. The first Nobel Prize in artificial intelligence went to a group of people in Britain, actually, that figured out how they could use artificial intelligence to predict how proteins would fold up. It's called AlphaFold. And those people won the Nobel Prize. They designed it. So here's what the problem is. A protein, which is what does everything in your cells, enzymes and collagen and skin and everything, is made up of proteins. And what those are made up of amino acids, little building blocks, like a Lego set. There are 23 of them, and the arrangement, the order in which they are is almost infinite, right? I mean, if you have those many Legos, you can make all kinds of different things. The trouble was, is we used to have to figure out, and we couldn't predict how it would all fold up. And they use artificial intelligence now to do that. So you can take any string of amino acids and put it in, and it literally almost instantly now, you'll get what it looks like. How does it fold? And so they use it all the time. Everyone, we've got 6 structural biologists. They still need the microscope though. But in order to look at the individual proteins, they can do it now in AlphaFold. So I think it's just the beginning now. We're speaking to Grand Valley State about maybe setting up a program to train people in the use of AI for biology. But it's very early days to talk about that. But definitely, all of the structural people have it running all day on their computers. The big breakthrough, and that is the first real breakthrough in artificial intelligence. I think it is a huge accomplishment. Yeah.
I have a question. Well, the audience is maybe thinking of a few others or raising their hands. So we know that the Andel Institute is an amazing organization here in 2025, but what was it in 2014 that really just excited you, knowing that so many people thought this wouldn't work?
Well, I could tell them the story, Jenna. Jana Hall was running the show at the moment from the point of view of, I'll tell the story. You want to tell? And Linda, of course. They're going to ask you to answer the question.
There's an old saying, there's no heavier burden than a great potential. But what we saw here in Grand Rapids was just breathtaking potential. But it needed the right person in this right place at the right time. And we knew it was Peter Jones. So Linda Zarzecki, Vice President of Human Resources, and I, Chief Operations Officer, set out to explain what we saw here to Dr. Jones, and we just felt if we could get him to see and understand the potential, that he would catch fire. And here he is.
Thank you. No, so it was an amazing thing. I had no interest in coming here at all. We've got our kids in LA. We have a house there. Why would you come here? I actually said Grand Ware when I said come to Grand Rapids. Grand Ware. I didn't know at all. But I think the Van Andel family has invested so much, and I felt like, we owe it to them to take what they've invested and actually do something with it. It's a bit, I guess, to me it just seemed like somebody puts that amount of money into something which is, such a high a goal. It's incumbent upon everybody to say thank you and do something with it. So it was an opportunity to take it and do something with it that brought me here, because I felt a responsibility. And also saw the opportunity, and so we came at just the right time, and we had a plan of what we were going to do, and we went as a team, get the very, very best senior people I call name brand. You know, when you say something, if you say Founders Brewery, you already know what that is. It's a beer, and if you say beer, then you think Founders Brewery, or you say Tide, and you think soap, and so on. So I thought, that getting name brand people here, other people like on the list there. No, I'm no longer on the list, remember. But anyway, they're still on it, and on the pictures. That was the first thing. The second thing is, I thought that then we needed, once we had them as mentors, we could then recruit young people straight out of their training. Because you can't put young people into a situation in a very tough competitive environment and expect them to just know what to do. They don't know what to do. So you have to have some old thing. And then I have to say I'm extremely proud I focused on getting women here. And we got some, when I came, there were no full professors that were women. I think we have 5. At least now. It's not a balance, but it's getting in the right direction. I think, I devoted a lot of time to that too, just in principle. I felt like if we really wanted to be good, we have to have good, not just people that were good, but also people that represented different views and different mentoring styles. So the last year or two, we recruited, 6 young faculty here from, by the way, they come from Harvard. 2 of them came from Harvard. They worked in the same building. They didn't even know each other until they got here. And we have our first Grand Rapidian. Can you imagine? There was nobody, there was a kid that had come through as an intern, and he was in Seattle at a famous place, and we managed to recruit him here. He just arrived about a year ago. So I think we've done really well by thinking about it carefully, going after stars, and then going after people from the very best institutes. When we started, we had to talk people into coming. Mostly we found when they show up in Grand Rapids, it's a great city. If you're a young person, you can actually buy a house, you can have good education, you don't have the traffic that you have in LA or Seattle, although the traffic's pretty bad during the construction season. The winter season has its own problems, but the construction season's worse. Anyway, so that's what we did. And I think now we've got a really good balance of heavy hitters and young stars. And all of them are expected to compete at the level of the NIH to get funding for their research. There's no free lunch. You've got to get your own grant to support your research. So that's the combination which has really worked well.
I think we have time for one last question.
With the pressure to publish and get papers out there and get a name for the Institute, how does leadership support the investigators when maybe they're pursuing something that's really encouraging and then they don't get a significant result?
Yeah. Well, certainly with publications, I want you to know I've published 300 papers. I think 299 of them have been a struggle. Publishing papers is part of the game. If you can't publish, you may as well go somewhere else. It's just the way it is. It's the only way that you can really tell whether you're having an impact. And you have to send it to a journal. It's reviewed by anonymous people. You know what anonymous, when you're anonymous, you can say awful things. I've been called all sorts of things. So that's the first thing. But what we have is, so if people get into funding situation problems where they can't get NIH grants or the grants are turned down, the Institute has a wonderful system for actually supporting people in the interim. So we don't just throw them out the door, okay? One of the things we got from an engineering firm, I think what we call a scored grants program. You apply to the NIH, you get a grant which is actually in the top 25% of the grants, but that's not good enough. But we have a donor who gave us the money that could give that person $100,000 to keep going. That's what we do, and we look after our people. And it's very important because around the country, at the moment, with what's happening at NIH, it is not pleasant. It is not good. And young people are getting turned off science. Immigrants are not coming here anymore. I spoke to one of our faculty today. Somebody in Austria is trying to recruit him. He said, I would never normally look at it, but I don't know about the funding situation. So that's, but our institute is, I think, doing it the right way.
This has been an inspiring talk, and I can't wait to hear more about what comes out of the Andel Institute in the future. We wish you the best in all of your research and the work that you're doing. So let's give Dr. Jones one more round of applause. We have archived this program, so it will be available on our YouTube channel in the future, so keep an eye out for that if you want to share to people who may be interested in it. And then also our series concludes next Tuesday on the 21st. We will have another wonderful local institution coming to talk about what they're doing. Dr. Chaz Hong, the chair of medicine at Michigan State University's School of Medicine, is going to talk about training for impact, how medical schools shape community and global health. So we've got the pure research and the practitioners for these two programs. So it'll be really interesting to see them side by side. So come back, enjoy that program. We'll see you next week. Thank you.